Good morning, dear students. Today I shall take up Hearts and Hand by O. Henry. This story is narrated in third person. The narrator is the narrator is subjective and does not participate in the plot any time. In this story, O. Henry, his real name was William Sidney Porter. He used irony, personification, and hyperbole, figures of speech. Hearts and Hand is a gripping story. A gripping story is one which holds our attention. Exciting story. In this story, he has blended reality and fantasy. Fantasy situations that are not true. The plot of the story is related to the theme of showing compassion and not judging people by their outer appearance. The story begins with two people, Mr. Aston and the blue-faced man handcuffed together. It is the handcuffing that lends to the hands part of the title. In fact, it is the hands, means handcuffs, which are significant for revealing the true identities of two men. It is the herds part of the title that explains the theme. The marshal was compassionate, so he told a lie to Miss Fairchild. The story presents us with the three characters: a marshal, a convict, and a young lady. On a train to Denver, there was a chance meeting between a young lady and convict who happened to be old friends. O. Henry has artfully depicted in the story that appearances can misrepresent reality. When the marshal and convict boarded the train, their physical appearances are described in such a way that it later misled not only Miss Fairchild but also readers. Now I shall start taking up this story. One more thing I want to tell you. The theme of Hearts and Hand is kindness. The real marshal here in this story is a kind man who spares Mr. Aston as well as Miss Fairchild some embracement with no ulterior motives at all. He gains nothing from doing this. Hearts and Hands. The plot of the story is related to the theme of showing compassion and not judging people by their outer appearances. I have already told this. At Denver, there was an influx of passengers into the coaches on the eastbound B&M Express. The story is set in a train. The entire action is confined to a coach. The name of the train is B&M Express. In one coach, there sat a very pretty young woman dressed in elegant. Elegant means graceful. Taste and surrounded by all the luxurious comforts of an experienced traveler. Luxurious means very comfortable and expensive. And experience means loved traveling. Means she is equipped with all the things necessary to a traveler. She kept all those things. That's why she is mentioned here as luxurious comforts of an experienced traveler. Among the newcomers were two young men, one of handsome presence with a bold, frank countenance and manner. The other a ruffled, upset, glue-faced person. Glue-faced means gloom-faced person, heavily built and roughly dressed. The two were handcuffed together. Both the persons were chained together as they passed down the aisle. Aisle means a passage between sections of seats in a church or theatre. As they passed down the aisle of the coach, the only vacant seat offered was a reversed one facing the young attractive lady who was already occupied one seat in the coach. Here the linked couple seated together. Here the linked couple seated themselves together. The young woman's glance means first glance fell upon them with a distant, swift, disinterested, then with a lovely smile brightening her countenance. When she saw the two persons sitting in front of her, a brightness was visible on her face, on her countenance. She became happy after seeing one of them. And a tender pink tinging her rounded cheeks, tinging a small amount of color to something, okay, and a tender pink tinging her rounded cheeks. Her cheeks became rosy when she saw one of them. She recognized because she thought that one of them was her old acquaintance, old friend. That's why her face became rosy. Her face was filled with smile and happiness. She held out a little grey gloved hand covered with a grey colored gloves. When she spoke, her voice full, sweet and deliberate. When she spoke, her voice was full, sweet voice and deliberate, and proclaimed means declared that its owner was accustomed to speak and be heard. Means that was the chance meeting. Okay, O. Henry has artfully depicted in this story that appearances can misrepresent reality. So you have to note this point here. Okay, when she spoke, her voice full, sweet and deliberate, proclaimed that its owner was accustomed to speak and be heard. Means chance meeting O. Henry has artfully depicted in the story that appearances can misrepresent reality. Well, Mr. Aston, if you will make me speak first, I suppose I must. Don't you ever recognize old friends when you meet them in the West? You will not recognize your old friends when you will meet them in the West. The younger man roused himself sharply at the sound of her voice. After hearing the sound of Miss Fairchild, he roused sharply, seemed to struggle with a slight embarrassment. Feeling of awkwardness came all of a sudden after hearing the voice of that lady, which he threw off instantly and then clasped his held tightly her fingers with his left hand. It is Miss Fairchild, he said. He here is Mr. Aston. Mr. Aston said, it is Miss Fairchild. With a smile, he said, Mr. Aston. With a smile, he said, it is Miss Fairchild. I will ask you to excuse the other hand. It is otherwise engaged just at present. Just at present, he slightly raised his right hand, bound at the wrist by the shining bracelet, that is the chain, to the left one of his companion. He slightly raised his right hand, bound at the wrist by the shining bracelet, to the left one of his companion. The glad look in the girl's eyes slowly changed to a bewildered horror. Bewildered means puzzled and confused horror. When she saw a chain in both the hands of the persons, she was confused, she was puzzled, she was bewildered. The glow faded from her cheeks. After seeing the chain in their hands, the glow which came all of a sudden on her face disappeared. Her lips parted in a vague, relaxing distress, feeling of worry. Distress means feeling of worry. Her lips parted in a vague, relaxing distress. Her lips parted. She was shocked to see the chain in their hands. Aston, with a little laugh, as if amused, was about to speak again when the other acted before in order to prevent something. The blue-faced man had been watching the girl's countenance with veiled glances. Veiled glances means indirect looks from his keen, shrewd eyes. Okay, the blue-faced man was a convict, and he was watching the girl's face, girl's countenance, with a veiled glances, with an indirect looks from his keen, shrewd means cunning eyes. You will excuse me for speaking, miss, but I see you are acquainted with the marshal here. If you will ask him to speak a word for me, when we get to the pen means prison, he will do it, and it will make things easier for me there. He is taking me to the Leavenworth prison. It is 7 years for counterfeiting. Counterfeiting, imitating something with intent to deceive. He deceived someone, that's why he was given 7 years imprisonment, and that's why the person was taking him. Oh, said the girl with a deep breath and returning color. So that is what you are doing out here? A marshal? My dear Miss Fairchild, said Mr. Aston calmly. Okay. He said, my dear Miss Fairchild, said Mr. Aston calmly, I had to do something. Money has a way of taking wings unto itself, and you know it takes money. Means money has ability to make one feel respected and dignified. Money can make one fly and soar high. Okay. Money has always a way of taking wings unto itself, and you know it takes money to keep step with our crowd in Washington. To keep steps with our crowd in Washington means to compete with the crowd or to feel one with the high class society in Washington. Money is required. To compete with the crowd or to feel one with the high class society in Washington, money is required. I saw this opening in the West, and well, a marshalship is not quite as high a position as that of ambassador. But the ambassador, said the girls warmly, doesn't call anymore. Ambassador, representative of the government with full authority. He need not ever have done so. You ought to know that. And so, now you are one of these dashing Western heroes, and you ride and shoot and go into all kinds of dangers. That is different from the Washington life you have been missed from the old crowd. The girl's eyes fascinated. The girl's eyes were fascinated. The girl's eyes fascinated went back, widening a little to rest upon the glittering handcuffs. The girl's eyes were fascinated with the handcuff, went back, widening a little to rest upon the glistening handcuff. The blue-faced man asked her not to worry, as it was Mr. Eston's business as a marshal to handcuff the convict to keep from getting away. Eston said he was making money. In the above line he said he was making money, but he needed more in order to fit in a high society. So he took up the position of a marshal in the West. Don't you worry about them, miss, said the other man. All marshals handcuff themselves to their prisoners to keep them from getting away. In reality, the blue-faced man was the marshal. Why was taking the convict, Mr. Marshal, to prison? The marshal to save Mr. Eston from embarrassment in front of Miss Fairchild, presented himself as the convict. Mr. Eston knows his business. Will we see you again soon in Washington? Asked the girl. Not soon, I think, said Mr. Eston. My butterfly days are over, I fear. Eston's good and adventurous days of making money by deceiving people are over. Days of freedom are over, this it means. I love to rest, said the girl, irreverently, means casually. Her eyes were shining. Her eyes were shining softly. She looked away out the car window. She began to speak truly and simply, without the glow of style and manner. Mana, I spent the summer in Denver. She went home a week ago because father was slightly ill. I could leave and be happy in the West. I was very happy in the West, but due to some reason I came back. She went home a week ago because father was slightly ill. I could leave and be happy in the West. I think the air here agrees with me. Money is not everything. But people always misunderstood things and remain stupid. They are running behind money. Mr. Marshall says, growled. Growled means complained inwardly. The blue-faced man had golden heart. This is not quite fair. I am needing a drink and have not had a smoke all day. Haven't you talked long enough? Take me in the smoker now, won't you? Smoker is an area where you can smoke. I am half dead for a pipe. He did this to save Mr. Aston from humiliation of being identified as a convict in front of the old friend. That's why he took him to the smoker area, and he told that you will not take me to smoker. The bound travelers rose to their feet. Aston was the same slow smile on his face. I cannot deny a petition for tobacco, he said slightly. He said slightly that he requested me for tobacco, and I cannot deny his petition and his request. It is the one friend of the unfortunate. Goodbye, Miss Fairchild. Duty calls, you know. He held out his hand for a farewell. It is too bad you are not going east, she said. She said, it is too bad that you are not going east, reclothing herself with manner and style. She was adjusting her clothes in a manner and style, but you must go to Leavenworth, I suppose. But it is clear to me that you are going to prison, you are going to pen, because 7 years imprisonment you are given. Said Aston, yes, I must go to Leavenworth. The two men sidled down the hill into the smoker. The two men sidled down the smoker. The two men sidled down the smoker, down the hill into the smoker, Mr. Aston and Fairchild. The word herds in the title is indicative as a relationship, something more than friendship between Miss Fairchild and Mr. Aston. When she saw Mr. Aston, there appeared a lovely smile on her face. Down with him in west. The blue-faced man interrupted the conversation between Aston and Miss Fairchild and requested Aston that he should be taken to the smoker room to prevent Mr. Aston from revealing that he is a convict. The blue-faced fellow did so. The two passengers in a seat thereby had heard most of the conversation. The conversation which was going on between them, the two passengers who were sat nearby them heard. Said one of them, the marshal is a good sort of chap. Some of these Western fellows are all right. Pretty young to hold an office like that, isn't he? Asked the other. Young, exclaimed the first speaker. Why, oh, didn't you catch on? Say, did you ever know an officer to handcuff a prisoner to his right hand? The story ends here with surprise. Generally, an officer's left hand is handcuffed to the right hand of the convict. The information is necessary to end the story, as it reveals that in reality, Mr. Aston was the convict and the blue-faced man was the marshal. Thank you.